Hello, Simon Dixon here, and welcome to episode 12 of Bank to the Future Live. As usual, we're going to be covering the latest updates at Bank to the Future, and we're also going to be covering some of the latest portfolio news and portfolio updates. And obviously, the big elephant in the room is an update on the Bitfinex and Tether situation. So we've got that all to cover. We've got an hour to fit in everything we can. So firstly, I'm just going to go straight into some of the Bank to the Future updates. For those of you that are new to the show, I give a lot of content on crypto and fintech and banking and everything that's happening within the financial industry and fintech industry. But this is just for our Bank to the Future investors and clients to get dedicated time for me to discuss the portfolio companies at Bank to the Future, as well as all things related to our investors, and the online investment platform, banktothefuture.com, our securities token wallet, BF Wallet, the Bank to the Future token, and everything to do with the Bank to the Future ecosystem. So let's dive straight in. Firstly, a new thing we're going to try today is if you want to use the hashtag BF Live, then we can use that and follow that in order to take any of your questions or suggestions for today. So we can use that. So if you're on social media, if you're on Twitter, then please use hashtag BF Live, and we'll try and take those questions as well as the live chat as usual. So if you're watching here live on YouTube or you're watching the recording, then for those of you that are going to be watching the recording, we will take the comments that you post right here in YouTube, and we'll try and cover those next week in Bank to the Future Live when collating the questions. If you're watching live, then please do use the live chat. And as usual, we have Famida operating, I always say that, moderating and operating. And she will interrupt me or let me know if we have any technical issues, any sound issues. So just use the live chat to let us know so that we can make sure that we fix that or figure out what's actually happening. So let's just dive straight in. I'm just going to pull up my show notes because we've got a lot that we want to cover today. So we've said about hashtag BF Live. I'm just giving a quick overview of some of the pitches live on banktothefuture.com right now. At the moment, if you're not a priority access member and you don't hold 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens on your account, then you'll probably be seeing one pitch live at the moment. But we're currently working on about 5 or 6, which are also going to be available for our priority access members. As a recap, in order to be a priority access member, you have to hold a minimum of 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens on your banktothefuture.com account. You can do that in one of two ways. You can either do it on your BF wallet, where you hold the tokens in a self-custodial way, meaning that you own the private key and you hold those tokens on your iOS or Android device. And there's a backup key in case you lose that and need to port them onto another phone or another device. Or you can do it in a custodial way, which is just deposit them on your banktothefuture.com account, in which case we will obviously be holding those in our wallets. And so there's slightly more of a delay and slightly different risk depending on your risk profile and how comfortable you are storing those tokens. We've also got a great update on the BF wallet today. And we'll be sharing that shortly after we've gone through the new pitches, live pitches, and what's coming up. So you'll see Phase right now, which I think will be closing soon. We are almost signed off from our broker-dealer on the AirTM pitch. So that will be going out to existing investors in AirTM for those that want to co-invest with Coinbase in the latest funding round. We've also got our first Lightning business, which is Bitrefill, in the final stages of getting signed off. And we just shared to our priority access members BTR Exchange Inc., which is the largest broker ATM network and exchange in Romania that is now expanding to Canada and has opened an offices out there. So you can check that out as the earlier stage companies. Also, Phase is currently live and closing soon. For those priority access members, you'll know that you exclusively get all of the secondary market listings before they go live on our secondary market. We currently have 2 companies live in the beta version of our secondary market. The first company is Bitfinex, which we'll be covering as the main topic today. And the second one is Circle. Now, remember, you're not actually trading those companies directly. They are not publicly traded companies. We own shares in those companies via one of our special companies called an SPV. And we make a market where people can buy and sell those shares. And for every share they buy in that company, it's backed by one shares in the underlying company. So if you're trading the Bitfinex SPV, for every share you buy or sell in the Bitfinex SPV, it is backed by one share in Bitfinex. And the same goes for Circle and some of the other companies that we're going to be launching on the secondary market in the coming months as we move out of beta. We're delighted to see that the volume on our secondary market is ever increasing. In beta, obviously, we're only accepting certain minimum deposits for those and restricted payment methods while we work on further integrations in order to come out of beta. We announced last week in BF Live that we've had a bit of a breakthrough with our banking partner, and we're going to be able to allow for up to 35 different fiat currencies, as well as our solutions for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other cryptocurrencies for trading in our secondary market. But the pricing of all the markets is always priced in US dollar because people find it easier to determine valuations and think, because at this stage, I don't think crypto has become a good unit of account because people can't really think in terms of 0.123678 Bitcoin. They're still thinking in terms of fiat currencies, and dollars is the one that most people understand. So that's why we've done that. But in terms of priority access deals, we're about to close the Ripple Labs deal for the SPV that owns equity in Ripple Labs. I think that has already closed. And only priority access deals with deal members that own a minimum of 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens will actually see that. And other deals that we're going to have coming soon that we're just getting signed off is the next round for Kraken, Edge, Token Market, and we've already covered the secondary market deals that are live right now. Also, an update on the BF Wallet. For those of you that don't know the history, the BF Wallet is mainly designed around the security token ecosystem. So we own equity in over 120 of the largest companies in crypto. Our play into the securities token market is that we've launched the BF Wallet, which is now available on iOS and Android. And for those of you that already have that, if you go to the App Store today, you'll be able to upgrade the wallet. And when you upgrade, you'll notice that we now have a new supported cryptocurrency, which is Bitcoin. The reason normally we would have done everything on Bitcoin, but obviously as most of the security token ecosystem has been built on top of Ethereum, and we launched our first security token on the BF Wallet, which was the lottery.com token, via one of our portfolio companies and in integration with Securitize. But now our next step is that we want to see a lot of the security token ecosystem happen on Bitcoin. So the first step for us is to support a Bitcoin wallet, and we're working on integrations with Liquid so that we can have security tokens built on top of Bitcoin now that we have the technological breakthroughs that are needed with Bitcoin in order to allow for assets to be tokenized on top of Bitcoin. It's always been available, but now the technological improvement and the market is a lot better from the very early attempts before Ethereum in order to do tokens on top of Bitcoin. So we're very happy to announce that. If you don't have a BF wallet yet, and if you're thinking about getting involved in the security token ecosystem, then the way that it works is you can set up an Ethereum and Bitcoin address. You can also use it for your Bank to the Future tokens, connect it with your banktothefuture.com account, go through the certification verification, and then you are in a position where you can have whitelisted addresses that allow you to compliantly trade security tokens with other whitelisted addresses as the security token ecosystem builds. So we're looking at Liquid. Also, just wanted to share some new features, and in order to do that, I'm just going to actually, before we go through the portfolio company updates, I'm just going to share my screen so that you can see some screenshots of what's coming up. So you probably see me right now disappearing. And remember, Famida's going to be on hand to take your questions, so please do use the live chat. And yeah, this is what I saw when I logged into my iOS and Apple Store today. The prompt in order to update the BF Wallet, remember to get that updated so that you're always running the latest version. I'm going to close that one. So you'll see that on top of the Bank to the Future token wallet, you'll also see the Ethereum wallet, which is needed because the Bank to the Future token was built on top of Ethereum. And now you'll see Bitcoin, so that when you go to the securities token side, let me just change the background image here so you don't just see the boring. There we go. So you can see our BF Wallet page there. You'll notice that we've just put live on the bfwallet.com website the new video that we shared last week, so you can get an idea of what we're trying to achieve with the BF Wallet. But now you'll see the Bitcoin there, and then when you go to the security token tab, you'll be able to, when we issue any security tokens built on top of Bitcoin using Liquid, you'll be able to do that, and your wallet will be whitelisted and ready to be able to participate in that ecosystem. Also coming soon, which is not actually launched right now, but in the next 2 weeks, the next update that we'll be releasing onto banktothefuture.com is a deeper integration between the company pages and the trading pages. So at the moment, you can see a screenshot of the Bitfinex company page. And at the moment, because the company pages were built before the trading pages, people found it hard to move between the company pages and the trading pages. But we want to make sure that people that are trading the Bitfinex SPV equity also have access to all the company information and all the public disclosures and different documents that we upload, which become relevant when we go through the next section today. But also the public forum, where the discussion tab here is where any qualifying investor that has signed up to banktothefuture.com can discuss the company. But the investor zone is exclusively a private forum just for those that actually own shares in the Bitfinex SPV, so that they can chat amongst shareholders, and they can also access the complete archive of all of the conversations since the Bitfinex SPV originally listed as the Hack Recovery convertible token prior. And then you can seamlessly move to the market. So here's a screenshot here where you can actually then see it together, integrated, so you can go, and the user experience is going to be a lot better. We're aiming to release that in the next couple of weeks, and I'm just going to take a quick water break to keep my breath fresh. Okay. So those are the different things. And what I'm going to do quickly while I'm on this screen is just go through some of the portfolio company updates. And then we're going to spend the rest of this session either taking your questions and going through the main topic of this, which is the Bitfinex Tether situation. So in terms of portfolio company updates, it seems like everything's going stablecoin, stablecoin, stablecoin. You'll notice that Tether, even amongst all this controversy, I think has gone up to a market cap of approximately 3 billion now. So the interesting thing is that the market definitely wants and uses stablecoins. But I'm going to get this story up, which is, looks a bit strange. That's going to be the final story we'll do, so I'll work backwards. One of our portfolio companies, BitSpark, has released a new stablecoin for the Filipino peso. BitSpark is a company that is based in Hong Kong, and really one of my go-to people in understanding everything to do with crypto and remittances. They've done a deep dive into every single type of protocol that can be used for remittances, and they're launching their stablecoin for the Filipino peso in order to improve some of the corridors where crypto can be used, cash in, cash out, between jurisdictions like Hong Kong, which has a high population, of Filipino and Indonesian people that often work in Hong Kong to take advantage of some of the job opportunities there, and then send their money back to the Philippines or Indonesia in order to fund some of their family. And so therefore, fees really, really matter. And things like stable coins can actually help eliminate volatility for those that want to use crypto, but volatility is just simply not an option given their financial circumstance. Another story is another one of our portfolio companies, Wirex. Wirex, we were Bank to the Future investors, funded the very first seed round of Wirex, but they're now using Stellar, and they're planning to launch 26 different stable coins. So all of the traditional companies that have been servicing people, Wirex offers Bitcoin and crypto-denominated debit cards so that you can easily spend your crypto using a debit card. They're also looking at how they can use stable coins in order to improve that ecosystem and offer more services to those using them. And finally, one of our other portfolio companies, let's change the font on that, that's really large. Ripple Labs released a statement on their sales of XRP currency growing 31% in Q1. So for those of you that don't know, Ripple Labs is one of the largest holders of the XRP token, and they're building technology really centered around disrupting and trying to make an improvement upon the bank-to-bank international payments, which is one of my pet hates, one of my pet pains, is the friction and challenges in sending money, fiat money around the world. Swift are kind of currently the dominant players in that. And Ripple Labs are building technology to try and disrupt Swift and create improvements in that system. And part of their technology is using XRP, and they're the largest holders of XRP, the company. And therefore, just a quick update from that, and that will be going live, the SPV, on our secondary market in the coming months. But obviously, the story that I want to cover, and the big elephant in the room, is what everyone has been talking about, the Bitfinex and Tether situation. Now, what I'm going to do, I guess we can split this into two sections. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and just kind of guide you on how those of you that are either investors in Bitfinex or just interested in potentially trading the Bitfinex SPV, how we've been dealing with the situation and what we've been doing, and do that from really the hat of Bank to the Future. And then after that, I'm going to turn over from my screen to my face, and then I'd like to just share my opinion, my perspective. The important part here is that these are not the opinions of the company Bank to the Future. These are my personal opinions, and none of these opinions should be used as, as financial advice, or whether you should buy or sell shares in the SPV. Or whether it relates, you should make your own opinion and you should do your own research. But I'm going to give my personal opinion and my personal perspective on that. And also from the disclaimer that I should put out to all is that I am a shareholder in Bitfinex via one of our SPVs. We have worked with Bitfinex in the past in order to help them recover from the hack. And we do have a secondary market at banktothefuture.com for those that want to buy and sell shares in the SPV that own shares in Bitfinex. So obviously, we don't have access to any additional information. As a shareholder, we do, I do have a personal relationship with some of the board members. But in situations like this, it's very sensitive information. And anything that is publicly viewable or public information, we'll actually be sharing, and I don't put myself in a position whereby I might have some kind of inside information because of trying to keep the integrity in the market. But the situation is that the Coinbase and Bloomberg broke the article that the New York State General Attorney's Office has put together, well, has put together a statement stating that they want Bitfinex to make some more disclosures and get some updates on the Tether and Bitfinex situation relating around an $850 million loss. Bitfinex then responded to that and put out information because they had been cooperating all along with the New York State Attorney Office. And that what we've done at Bank to the Future is, firstly, we want to make sure that all people that are actually going to be trading or buying and selling shares in the Bitfinex SPV actually have have access to that information and disclosures. So here's an account. I just want to make sure everyone's up to date on that. So the way that it works is if you go to the trade page, and then you will see the companies in beta on our secondary market. And here is the Bitfinex SPV. You can hit on trade and you can see some of the price history, how it reacted to the news. You can also see our OTC order book where people that want to purchase Bitfinex SPV shares can show an order here. And those that are looking to sell here can advertise what price that they're looking to sell their shares for. And you can see the chart here and the volume. So you can see, obviously, as a result of the news, we had a big spike in volume to one of our largest volume days for the Bitfinex SPV as a result of people reevaluating the situation and deciding how they wanted to reposition their portfolio accordingly. And you can see the history of trades. Obviously, at the moment, we're still in beta. We didn't anticipate such newsworthy events to happen during our secondary market in beta, but there you can see that as well. Fortunately, we're not fully open in terms of having all of our payment methods available at the moment. You can only deposit Tether onto your account if you want to place a buy order in our secondary market. But we're going to be introducing more fiat deposit options and various other things. So that's what I wanted to show you. But in terms of the actual trade page, so the way that it works is you go to the company page. And on the company page, remember in the next release, there's going to be a markets tab here, and we're going to have a deeper integration. All of the documents that we think are publicly relevant disclosures have been uploaded here. So you can see for anybody that's a member of Bank to the Future and qualifies to invest, if they've gone through their verification and certification process, then they can talk amongst other investors on this discussion page. And on this discussion page, we've got the document from the New York Attorney General Office, so that you can do a deep dive and do your own research and make your own opinion. And then we've also got the Bitfinex response that they released, and also that has been disclosed to investors that already own shares in the investor zone. But I can't show you the conversation here because that's just for existing investors in the Bitfinex SPV. So that's where we, how we actually deal with these situations. And we welcome any of your other thoughts on how we can, any improvements we can make in terms of making such disclosures, so that everyone's kind of on the same information page, and we're trying to make the market as reasonable as we can, given that this is a market in private companies via an SPV. And remember, when you do register and you do place a trade or you do sign up, we really strongly suggest that you go through all the risk warnings, understand that this is a high risk, high return asset class that is subject to information right challenges. And we go through all the different risk warnings and dilution risks and everything that you need to be aware of. And if you are a sophisticated investor, then we actually put you through a quiz and a test to ensure that your understanding of private equity is on the same page that it would need to be in order to make a more informed decision about whether to buy and sell shares in private companies via one of our SPVs. Okay, another quick water break so I can keep my voice fresh, and then I'm going to move over to the camera and give my perspective. And then once I give my perspective, we can also move over to some of your questions as well. So please do use the live chat so we can make this show more interactive and better. Just going to see how we're doing for time. So we're about halfway through. So I'm trying to cover my perspective on the Bitfinex situation for maybe the next 5 or 10 minutes, or maybe a bit longer. We'll see how we go. And for that, I'm just going to go over to myself. So hopefully you can now see me. And again, I do need to say this. This is not the opinions of Bank to the Future. This is my personal opinions. And none of my opinions should be used for you to make an investment decision. This is not investment advice. You should do your own research. It's really important that you get your own, you make your own opinions. Remember the whole mantra of the crypto industry. One of the mantras is do not trust, verify. But I'm just giving my perspective, having been around this scenario. Firstly, as a customer of Bitfinex before the hack in 2016, having been around the industry since I very first spoke at the conference in 2011, at the first Bitcoin conference in Prague, and having published the very first book in the world that included Bitcoin on fintech, and also being involved as a shareholder. And this is not meant as any. I do not have additional information other than what is publicly available and the history and things that I have actually been. So I really want to make that clear, that this is my personal opinions. But what we're seeing right now is, I believe, Wall Street and New York, what I consider to be an attack on the crypto industry, in the geyser of investor protections. And here's why I see that, and here's what I think, and my perspective, my opinion on the matter. It is clear to me, it is clear, firstly, that this is a banking issue. The crypto industry, Bitcoin was created in the very first place in order to create an alternative to banks having custody over your funds. If you go back to my very first presentation at the very first Bitcoin conference in Prague, I talked about 3 things that are the difference between Bitcoin and banking. The first thing is that when you deposit your money at a bank, the bank owns that money. It is not your money. And if you own more than $10,000, you will find out that you need permission every time you try and move it. And if you own more than $100,000, in most jurisdictions, you'll realize that it is not insured, and the bank can take it if it chooses or gets in financial difficulty or trouble. With Bitcoin, you own your own money. The second thing I talked about is that while banks own your money, if they choose, they can spend it as they wish. With Bitcoin, you can move it as you wish. You can go hardware to hardware wallet. It's one of the original reasons it was created. The third issue is the monetary policy. With traditional banking, bank deposits or money is created every time a bank issues a loan, and therefore the entire money supply is dependent upon how many loans are issued to governments, banks, to governments, other banks, individuals, and corporations. With Bitcoin, it's got a fixed money supply, and therefore it has a counter effect, encouraging savings rather than debt. Traditional fiat money encourages debt, and crypto money encourages savings if the economics prevail and Bitcoin succeeds at becoming the world's best shot we've ever seen at achieving sound money, from my opinion and my perspective. Now, in the intermediary phase, there are people that want to onboard and offboard between crypto and fiat. And therefore, the need for an exchange exists. And that puts the crypto market into the trust market. And that creates a lot of regulatory friction and a lot of challenges around that. It also, one of the pioneers was Bitfinex in creating the stable coin built upon Bitcoin originally, using the Omni protocol, which allowed people to actually move fiat money without exiting the crypto market. The original promise was that every dollar was backed, every tether was backed by $1 held at a bank. From everything that I can see, the original allegations against Bitfinex were about that they were actually not backing Tether by $1. From my perspective, all that I have seen is a banking problem where banks have exercised their influence. And there's two reasons why they might do that. One, because governments are putting pressure in order to achieve their agenda for anti-money laundering and their goal for that. I'm not giving a political opinion about whether that is right. If you come from a law enforcement background and you believe that anti-money laundering is a very important thing, and that this is all part of the ecosystem that governments need to enforce, then you're welcome to that opinion. If you are from a crypto background and you believe that anti-money laundering is all about data collection and getting data on everybody so that it can lead to more tax collection and control, then that is completely your opinion. I'm not here to give a political opinion about which one is wrong or right. But however, it is the fact of how the system actually exists. Now, the banking system has been constantly attacking Bitfinex for the reason that they have wanted to keep people's privacy from crypto to crypto and fulfill some of the original promise of Bitcoin. At the same time, they want to only exercise as much compliance as is needed by laws and what they need to do. And therefore, if you go in and out of Tether, you need to go through their very aggressive compliance and anti-money laundering process based upon the jurisdictions that they live in. And as individuals, we have lots of choices. We can choose to use an ultra regulated US-based exchange, or we can choose to use a different exchange that operates outside different regulations and doesn't subject you to some of the privacy and issues that come around that Bitcoin has brought to the forefront of the world, and you can use different exchanges. And there are also different flavors in the middle. Companies like Kraken are in the ultra-regulated. They are founded by people that really believe in the Bitcoin ethos, but at the same time, they operate in the United States, which is one of the tightly regulated and overreaching in terms of regulations outside of their jurisdiction. Then you've got companies like Binance, which operate in the crypto to crypto space, and they only exist for one reason, and that is because Bitfinex actually created Tether, and Binance has got their complete success due to the fact that Bitfinex was banking them via Tether. The fact that they operated in the crypto to crypto market means that they use Tether as a way of not needing a US dollar bank account. It's why Binance is one of the largest holders of Tether if you look at the publicly available records. I think the last time I checked, they had about 700 million in through Tether. And that's because the reason that they grew and the fact that, thanks that market exists is purely because Bitfinex created a slightly different model, which is operating outside of that, that for those that want to operate outside of a jurisdiction, outside of the US, and also hold as many of the ethos of Bitcoin at the same time as trying to comply with all the regulations to allow them to maintain a banking relationship and a banking partnership. Now, most banks run a mile. And this all began when Wells Fargo actually went and attacked the banks that were serving Bitfinex in Taiwan. And that has led to a cascading effect, which Bitfinex have been constantly innovating around in order to try and keep this service continued. And so at that, and there has been many challenges around that. And the information that has come as a result of this, clearly can see that in that they've had to move billions of dollars as a result of all the exchanges, all the crypto to crypto exchanges using Tether as a way to grow ultra fast without actually having to find a banking relationship. And therefore Tether grew and grew and grew to about $4 billion. And then as some, different messages get out there, there's some kind of risk opportunity that people arbitrage leading to dollars being drained out of it and dollars going in and dollars going out. When Wells Fargo attacked in order to try and prevent the Taiwanese bank serving Bitfinex, they had to find other solutions. They found different banks, and the challenge is that when you're servicing, such a large amount of money, because companies like Binance are benefiting from their banking relationships and their banking situation, moving billions of dollars is the definition of why Bitcoin was created. Because remember the rules in banking. If you leave your money with them, it is the bank's deposit, it is legally not yours, and you have to fight to get it back. They can choose whether to service it or not. And if the bank gets in financial trouble, they can bail in subject to their insurance rules or whatever it is, because the money is not legally yours, and they take credit risk with that model. Now, a stable coin was one of the original things when we founded Bank to the Future, when Bliss Dixon and myself originally founded it, we wanted to actually create a bank, and we wanted to do full reserve banking. When we applied to the regulators in order to do that, they told us that you have to be a CEO of a bank and you have to do fractional reserve. You cannot do full reserve banking because we don't believe that there is a profitable business model in order to do that. Stablecoin was the first innovation of how to actually do that. And it served the crypto market, and it allowed companies like Binance and all the other crypto exchanges to grow at such a fast rate, and solve the problem of how do you send money around the world fast without having to go through the volatility of crypto, but go from exchange to exchange and various different factors, but also peg it to the dollar. And then lots of innovation is being created on top of that. Excuse me, just gonna have some more water before I carry on. So what we're seeing right now is that actually, in order to try and facilitate withdrawals and transactions, Bitfinex had to use the only few banks that were left that would serve the crypto market. Those same banks, so payment processors, were used by other companies in the crypto industry. And because that payment processor, Crypto Capital, from what I can see, from the information that is available out there, from what I can see, they have got themselves in trouble because they did not follow the regulations in terms of money laundering procedures and processes, and a government organization has seized some of those funds. Now, the funds are not lost from what I can tell. The funds are safeguarded and being held to protect from Crypto Capital. The details we do not know, and again, this is just my opinion and my perspective from the publicly available information that we can see. So when the headline says an $850 million loss, it is actually just funds that it seems that Bitfinex cannot access, or Tether cannot access. And Bitfinex and Tether, being as innovative as they always have been, just like when they recovered from the hack within a few weeks, rather than the Mt. Gox scenario where we're 5 years in and another 2 years and nobody's received their funds, they actually used financial innovation in order to get through that. From what I can see, from the public records, from my research, I can see that they cooperated with the New York General Office and shared that information. And it seems that the New York office then decided to publicly do that. I can't see that there were US investors. Bitfinex, from what I can see, has exited the US market. I'm not Bitfinex, I can't tell all the information. But what I can see is an attack from Wall Street, because they want to, just like the Wells Fargo situation, they are exercising influence. When Bitfinex disclosed and cooperated, that information has been used against them to publicly make information available, which at the end is good for that information to be available now, because we all have that. We have the different two sides of the stories, and we can make our own opinion from that. But from what I can see is that Bitfinex has now used financial engineering again in order to make up for some of these unfortunate situations as a result of not Bitfinex losing the money. But remember, the original allegations against Bitfinex were that they weren't holding the reserves. Now it comes out that they do hold the reserves, but the one government institution has actually seized or safeguarded those funds, while the bank actually works on their money laundering policies and procedures. So now they're in a situation where they need to use financial engineering in order to continue, and they always seem to use financial engineering to re-engineer the business, and then a separate government institution from the one that has seized the money is now using that to create this attack on the crypto industry, Bitfinex, and all I've seen is a group of people that have tried to, deal with these situations of that the entire crypto to crypto market can't get banking until today. We only just reached a scenario where some banks are coming around to actually servicing the crypto market. But Bitfinex has been lumbered because of their financial engineering with all the fiat deposits of all the crypto to crypto exchanges through Tether. And they're in a scenario where one of the banks that they were using in order to facilitate the payments, Crypto Capital, has got themselves in a situation where a government institution has seized those funds. And this is being reported as a loss or fraud or whatever it is. And I think it's a very, very interesting legal scenario, and we're getting to see both sides. But I think it's important for people to actually do their own research, understand the scenario, the ethos of what Bitcoin was originally created to do. And this should be a lesson for people to understand. And this is what we've always been trying to fund at Bank to the Future, is stay on top of the compliance and regulations, investor protections, and things that are important. But at the same time, understand that Bitcoiners have come along as a force to regulate regulators, because at the end of the day, who regulates the regulator? And this is a force, and it's a constant challenge. And Bitcoin is the world's best shot we've ever seen at achieving sound money and having some kind of influence in these scenarios. And what I see is, a company that has tried to facilitate that, done the best that they can, got themselves in situations as a result of the banking system problems, which is enforced by the government exercising their rules and their policies upon the banking sector, and really driving the use case of this. And here's what I'm thinking, that Bitfinex again will use financial engineering in order to find a way, in order to continue to service their customers, because they take their obligations very seriously from everything that I have seen. And they've had to be, figure out as much as they can as a result of the situations that they've dealt with, which is the original reason that I got into crypto. And that is that when you deposit your money with a bank, the bank owns your money, the bank spends your money, and they can seize it if they choose. And it is all backed by debt in a monetary system that encourages people to go into debt rather than rewarding the saver. So I know that that is a lot of my personal opinion. I've tried not to put too much politics into that, because this isn't a political show. But when I see things like this, I think it's important for people to actually do their own research, think outside the box, take a perspective, look at what actually makes sense. One of the most profitable companies, from what we can see, does not have need to dip into those funds unless the banking system is causing some kind of scenario that causes them to use financial engineering in order to facilitate these different markets that are growing, which is the fully regulated market and the crypto to crypto market, which is providing freedom to people that want to use those markets with some more technical challenges, as well as those that need to onboard. Stable coins and exchanges are a part of that. There is a counterforce, hardware wallet to hardware wallet, crypto to crypto, decentralized exchange to decentralized exchange. But the technical hurdles for people to use relies upon things like stable coins, and the innovation that we're seeing within this space is the reason why banktothefuture.com exists, because it's creating unparalleled investment opportunities to invest in the disruption of a multi-trillion-dollar industry. But in that, we've got these ultra-tight banks that are changing. We've got these hybrid models of exchanges and stable coins, and then we've got crypto to crypto decentralized exchange. And and those are different industries that are all emerging, and it's very exciting to see this. I've gone a lot longer than I wanted to go, but I just wanted to give my perspective. And I do want to say again, if somebody is just joining this broadcast now and they haven't seen that none of this should be used as investment advice. This is not financial advice. These are my opinions. These are not the opinions of Bank to the Future or the company. And there is disclosures that need to be made. I am a personal shareholder in Bitfinex via the SPV and banktothefuture.com. does make a market for qualifying investors that want to buy and sell shares in Bitfinex via one of our SPV structures. So you need to take with a grain of salt whether this should be discounted information based upon self-interest, or whether you want to take some of this information in order to do your own research. So I've covered a lot more of the Q&A time. I think we've only got 10 minutes left for the Q&A, but I'm going to turn over to Famida right now, and maybe I've generated some questions. If I can't answer it, I'll just tell you, because if I don't have the information, I don't have the information. Or we can take some of the more Bank to the Future related questions and less political induced opinions.
Hey Simon, thanks for that. So it looks like there hasn't really been any questions about this topic that you went into. There are just general Bank to the Future questions. So I'm going to go with some that were there from last week and some that have come through this week in our Telegram group.
Okay, all right, let's take those. So let's get as many in as we can in the next 10 minutes.
Great. All right, so secondary market, how and when will it come out of trading in beta?
So we are working on the payment processor integrations. We want to automate our deposit and withdrawal system, and we want to integrate with many more fiat currencies and cryptocurrencies, so that when we actually do start letting qualifying investors know, more qualifying investors beyond our little niche beta group, it is open to anybody that is currently a qualifying certified or verified investor on banktothefuture.com. But in order to limit to a more sophisticated audience, the only way to get access to that is to deposit some tethers to your wallet, and then you can place a buy order or you can place a sell order if you're an existing investor. We have about 10 companies that we're looking to line up, so we want to release those companies, and we also want to make sure that we've got our deposit and withdrawal system all upgraded as a result of this. To give some context and background, banktothefuture.com has been around for a long time, but the original version, as the very first crypto securities business serving the crypto, fintech and blockchain market, our original version was all centered around investing in an individual pitch, and we built all our payment systems around being able to invest into a pitch, use card, Bitcoin, Ethereum, altcoin, bank transfer into an individual pitch. Now we've got the secondary market. The reason we're still in beta, where we're allowing people to place buy and sell orders in those companies that have established themselves, we need to actually rebuild a lot of the deposit and withdrawal system around our banking relationships, escrow partnerships, getting the compliance and regulations, different things, different models to being the securities business that we have in the past. And so once we built those and we've got a very good user experience for depositing, withdrawing, then we look to actually come out of beta and let more qualifying investors know. The interesting thing is that creates an arbitrage opportunity for those that are participating in the beta, whereby the liquidity is lower and therefore you could get discounts and premiums to the underlying equity value based around putting buy and sell orders on the SPV, which is what many of our investors have been doing in the beta phase. So hopefully that gives you an answer, but it's more centered around getting a better user experience and taking more of your feedback as well, because we've made several changes as a result of the beta, and we're really glad we did it in that way.
Okay, yeah, I think you've just touched on part of a couple of other questions that came through about the secondary market and the currencies that people can use. But I guess this is more of a comment or asking your comment on this. Can you comment on USDT not being stable at the moment or for the foreseeable future?
So the way that it works on our market is that you can use USDT or USD when requesting a withdrawal. And you can use USDT in order to make a deposit. We continue the peg of $1. So if it's trading at a discount or premium, that creates an arbitrage opportunity in beta for people to buy those tethers at a discount or premium, depending on if they're registered with any exchange. But that doesn't really affect anything at the moment. Our secondary market is based upon USD, and you can use USDT to make a deposit in beta.
All right. So another kind of comment. Would it make sense to use multiple stable coins, maybe Tether and USDC, as Circle is a portfolio company? Maybe this will help the platform to hedge its bets if one of the stable coin is failing at doing its job.
Be careful what you ask for, because yes, we are an investor in Circle, one of our portfolio companies, and Circle has released USDC, which is an alternative to USDT. All of the volume is in USDT. From what I can see, it's increasing, not decreasing as a result of this situation. And yes, we will be integrating and allowing people, if they're not comfortable using USDT, to use USDC and other stable coins as well. Remember that I think, though, it's important to use these because the alternatives are coming as well. If you want to use JP Morgan coin, if you want to use Facebook coin, then these are all going to be options as the corporations and the attacks still continue on our industry, so that we can defend Wall Street and allow JP Morgan to take over a lot of the Tether volume. And it all seems very correlated to me. But again, I don't want to put too much political opinion in that. But if we want to move to a world of Facebook coin and USDT coin and Samsung coin, then we can move to that world as a result of allowing these things to happen as the banking system defends the companies that they want to defend. Or we can continue to use USDT, take your own risk, USDC if you want to take a different kind of risk. But remember, this is why Bitcoin was created. And we will also be allowing for people to convert their Bitcoin into USD in order to trade on the second, in order to place a buy and sell order on the secondary market at some point. We want to make these flexible payment options available for you. But the one thing we don't want to do is start denominating it into a unit of account that people don't understand or think in. We want people to understand we don't think that valuing companies and doing calculations for valuation arbitrage between the underlying company and the SPV is useful, having it denominated in something like Bitcoin or ETH, where based upon the price of Bitcoin or ETH changing against the dollar means that you get a different dynamic in the market. So we want to still keep it denominated into a unit of account that people understand, and that's why we're allowing it to be priced in the US dollar. But to answer your question, we're more than open to supporting whatever the market wants to see, wherever the volume is. At the moment, I don't see much volume there. And I'm sure Binance at some point is going to thank Bitfinex for creating Tether and launch their own token on top of the Binance chain. If that becomes a popular method, then we will continue to support what our customers and what our investors are actually using and where the volume goes.
All right, I have a pitch company question. So is there any explanation about what happened with the Bitrefill pitch? Why was there no email, and why did it overfund so quickly?
So we're about to launch a pitch called for Bitrefill, and it will go out to our priority access investors first. A button was pressed. The way that our pitches actually work is that we tend to get an institutional investor to do a lot of the due diligence, and we introduce many of our companies to institutional investors. A lot of the due diligence, a lot of the valuation settings, so that you're co-investing on the same terms. Unfortunately, Bitrefill was made listed on our platform earlier than it should have over the weekend. But what we have done is we have secured an allocation just for priority access investors. It is currently overfunded, but every priority access investor will be able to purchase some shares via the SPV in Bitrefill, and we will be emailing you first as promised. We're sorry for the mistake, but we'll be emailing you first as promised, and then it will be going listed, and there's more than enough to fulfill all the demand, even though because Bitrefill, the team very kindly extended another allocation to help us out exclusively for our priority access investors. and then for the Bank to the Future investors in general, if there's any left over after the priority access investors. Very good point. We do apologize for releasing it early. We corrected the mistake once we saw it, but we believe that we've found all the allocation for all the priority access investors. And if you deposit 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens on your banktothefuture.com account, or connect a BF wallet with 10,000, at least 10,000 tokens, then you will get that refill email as soon as it's signed off and passed all the final stages.
Okay, so that was a good point where you just ended that answer about connecting your BF mobile wallet to your BF account. So can you just quickly give a recap? I know you've mentioned it quite a few times on a few of our episodes, but can you give a recap on how to connect your BF mobile wallet to your BF account and how it works and how you see the accounts reflect the balances and how to invest?
Yeah. So remember what we said, with Bitcoin, you own your own money. With banks, you can't own your own money. Well, this is the difference between custody and self-custody. And the reason that I'm such a fan, one of the big reasons why I'm such a fan of Bitcoin, has brought this conversation to the front of people's mind. The difference between owning your own assets versus holding your own assets in somebody else's custody. And Bitcoin, many years ago, before Bank to the Future was created, before Bitcoin was created, I spent my time trying to explain to people these differences and how banks create money every time they issue loans, and people didn't even believe me. It wasn't until Bitcoin was created that people started to understand the difference between owning your own money versus holding it at a bank. So with the BF wallet and banktothefuture.com, we have a custodial solution and a self-custody solution. The custodial solution always has a better user experience. It's easy for people to use because it operates, not like a bank. We don't do fractional reserve. Everything's full reserve, which is, but it's different to owning your own assets. When you own your own assets, what Bitcoin created is we're still in the early stage of creating user experiences where people can own their own funds, but it requires a bit of technology and a responsibility for take care of your own security. Those are two very challenging things, and the growth of the crypto industry will be when those two things are solved. So at banktothefuture.com, when we released our premium membership, we released the Bank to the Future token. The Bank to the Future token is an ERC20 Ethereum-based token that is traded on crypto exchanges for those and allows people to buy and sell from crypto exchanges. If you own 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens, then you get priority access to every deal on Bank to the Future as long as you connect them in some way, in some capacity. You can do that in a custodial way where you just sign up to banktothefuture.com, do your verification and certification, and go to the fund section on your account and go to the Bank to the Future token, BFT wallet, and deposit a minimum of 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens. If you do that, you will be added to an email list that receives priority access to deals. If you deposit more than 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens, you can also use those in order to get a 50% discount on all of the fees when buying and selling on our secondary market. Our secondary market is the most established companies in crypto where we can trade without them being a public company via our SPV structure in a regulated environment through our onboarding process. Now, if you want, if you hold more than 10,000, then you can use those to get a 50% discount to trading fees. We also have rewards programs and various other things that we use the Bank to the Future token to reward people that do investor relations and due diligence and support us in creating more transparent information to the community. The alternative to that is you could do it in a self-custodial way. So you can go to iOS or Android and you can download the BF wallet on the App Store. And when you download it, you can use that as a Bank to the Future wallet where you can send and receive Bank to the Future tokens in a self-custodial way. Self-custodial means that you own the private key. The private key is what gives you access to that asset, that cryptocurrency. You have to take self-responsibility for storing that private key. We give you tools to protect it, like PIN codes, like two-factor authentication, and the ability to have a backup where there's a mnemonic phrase that if you use that backup and you lose your phone, you can then reboot that wallet and use that phrase to access the private key, so the funds can be accessed from a new phone or a new device with that. There's a bit of a technical education in understanding those concepts, but the price, I guess, of the technical education is that you can self-custody your own tokens. And so what we do is, if you want to self-custody your 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens, then you can prove to us that you own them and still get priority access to deals. The way you do that is there's a section on the wallet where you can connect your banktothefuture.com account. And if you have a certified and verified account, and you have 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens on that wallet, then we're able to tell that you own them. And because we can tell that you own them, you will also be added to our priority access list, and you'll get all the perks. You can store more than 10,000 on there if you choose. Then you can, if you want to use them in order to get discounted trading fees, you'd have to send them from your wallet to banktothefuture.com, and you'd have to relinquish that, because in order to use them, we'd have to do it in a custodial way. So those are kind of the difference. The user experience is not optimized yet. We'll constantly improve it. We'll constantly take feedback, but it helps you understand some of the goals of what we're trying to achieve. The other purpose of the BF Wallet and why we launched it is because we're seeing lots and lots of disruption, very, very early stage, in the security token industry. And the Bank to the Future wallet is integrated with different protocols that allow you to store your security tokens. A protocol built on Ethereum, Securitize, one of our portfolio company, and we're also working on an integration that allows you to store security tokens built upon Bitcoin using the Liquid network. And those things, we've done our first security token through the lottery.com fundraise, where you could take it off Bank to the Future and store the security token in your own wallet. It's slightly different with security tokens. Because assets, you can only trade those because of regulations between people that meet certain criteria, then you can use the BF wallet to get that whitelisted using banktothefuture.com, so that you can then have a whitelisted address that can trade those security tokens or send them and receive them between other whitelisted users. We'll be doing the same with the Liquid security tokens. Now, that is a very nascent early industry, and so that's why we have these different applications. Banktothefuture.com allows you to build a portfolio of companies that are doing stuff in the financial technology industry. We have the invest page, which is new deals. And then we have the more established companies on our secondary market, where you can buy and sell those because they're more established brands. That's in beta, that's being released. And then we have the BF wallet, which is all around the security token industry and allows you to do self-custodial of Bitcoins, of Ethereum, of the Bank to the Future token, and any security tokens that come through our ecosystem as that industry evolves and becomes bigger and bigger. So, yeah, I mean, if you've got further questions on that or any of those points, then do use the comments feature on this video, and we'll try and pick it up next week, because I think we've reached the end of our time. A couple of points. If you like some of the points, please do like this video. It helps us find more people interested in some of the major subjects that are happening as a result of this industry. Please do share it if you know other investors that might qualify to invest through Bank to the Future and are interested in this industry. And also use the subscribe button. We go live each and every week at this time. If you use the subscribe button and click that bell button, then YouTube will actually send you an email notification each and every week, every time we go live, so you don't miss another episode. And feel free to do that. We'll try and pick up. Please use the hashtag BFLive if you've got things you'd like us to cover next week after watching this recording. Or use the comment section, or head over to our Telegram channel in order to get engaged with some of our support team members. Or if you have a particular question around your account or being an investor on the platform, then we've got a support center, and please do ask questions there. So, Famida, I think we're out of time. Thank you very much for picking some great questions there. I know that this episode got slightly different in that I was given more of my opinions. But I think it's important given the environment and situation and the big elephant in the room that we discussed tonight. We look forward to bringing you more investment opportunities as we see the disruption of what we believe will be the disruption of a multi-trillion-dollar industry as this traditional industry gets disrupted one product at a time, and we'll continue to support the industry for as long as we can. And thank you for your time in the most exciting time in financial history. That's going to do it for episode 12 of Bank to the Future Live. Thank you.